Welcome to the Ordinary Black Professionals. I'm Nicole,
And I'm Stefan.
and this week we're discussing job hunting. Whoop whoop. So in July, in January, it's statistically a month where a lot of people decide that they want to leave their current job and move on to something new. They've had the time over Christmas to really reflect and think, and they come into the new year and they say, actually, I don't want to do this job anymore, so I want to find something new.
Yeah.
So because of that, we thought it'd be good to share our experiences of looking for a job and also providing some tips as well on how to go about your job search.
Yeah. So, new year, new job. I think first tip is consider the type of company that you want to apply for before you apply. What
Yeah.
are your things that are important to you? What are your must-haves? And also think about the type of work culture that you like
I
to
agree.
thrive in, you know?
Yeah.
Think about working somewhere in the new year for, the next year or so that you feel like you can thrive in.
Yeah. And I would say, to use an analogy, think of it like dating. If you're on a dating app, you have to fill in some requirements. You think about what it is you want in a partner. Do the same thing when it comes to a company. Think about, as Stefan said, what are your must-haves? What is the things that you want in your next company? Do you want your next company to really think about progression and career development? Or do you want your next company to really think about that work-life balance, or to make sure that there is a pay rise every year? What is it that's important to you? Or do you want a company where you can work quite autonomously and people aren't that interested in kind of socials every week?
Mm.
Um,
And that's comes back to the work culture because we had that episode before about work culture and those things that you mentioned. It's all about that culture.
yeah,
What does that company do? How do the people behave? And
yeah,
yeah,
I agree. And I think when you are more experienced in your career, that list of what you must have but gets longer and longer and longer.
mm,
What I would want now, 5.5 years in, compared to what I would want when I'm 2 years into my career, are completely different. And I'm sure when I'm 10, 15 years into my career, my must-haves will be completely different to what they are now.
yeah,
If you know that you want to have kids, for example, in a few years' time, then obviously you'd want to work for a company where that work-life balance is good and where they speak about that quite openly. So really think about what you want now in a company, but what you may potentially want in the future as well. Because
you
more than
know,
likely you're going to be there for what, at least 2 years.
that's a good point. I didn't think about that because what was right for you when you joined the company that you work for now may not necessarily be right for you where you are in your life today or
Mm,
where you are going to be in your life in the future.
yeah,
So, moving company is not just about the fact that, oh, I'm not getting paid what I want to get paid, or, my manager doesn't treat me the way I want to be treated, or
yeah,
stuff like that. It's also like, is this company working for me?
mm,
Uh, someone once told
that's
me,
so true.
someone once told me that once once you're working for a company and you're no longer learning something, you're no longer learning new things, it's time to leave,
Mm.
right?
But don't you think for consulting that's quite tricky? Because whether you're learning is dependent on what project you're on. And some projects, as we know, the consultants out there listening are better than others. And it can be
Yes.
like you can be on the deadest project where you learn nothing, but then 2 months later you'll be on the most exciting, thrilling, challenging project ever.
Yes, but I think learning is more than like uh, what you're learning day to day. It's also about does that company provide the resources, the time for
Okay,
you to
yeah.
learn new skills, or the facilities,
Yeah.
or even the fact that you can move to another project. Is there a project in the future that you see yourself in, and that
Mm,
possibly you could join?
that's
You
very
know,
true. That is very, very true.
so yeah, there's opportunities out there. Um, if you're consulting and if you're in that type of situation. But in other situations, some people are in jobs where you can't move left and right so much. You kind of have to stay in your
You're lame.
in your path. And if what you see coming next in your path is just not going to push you to where you want to be, then hey, maybe it's time to leave.
Yeah, that's very true. So then our second tip would be check out Glassdoor, look for feedback, look for reviews. So I personally use Glassdoor all the time if I'm looking for a job, and I check it quite frequently even now. Um, I think it's good at giving a picture on how employees feel at the time, because you will see the good and you will see the bad.
Yeah.
However, what I will say is that some smaller companies, they don't they don't always have as much data on Glassdoor as, I don't know, a Sky or something, for example. So it can be difficult to determine how people really feel or what that company's really like, because the data just isn't there for those smaller companies. But all in all, I think it's a good resource to use to get that feedback. Check out reviews, check out how much people earn, and check out what the interview process is like as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a really powerful resource. I read Glassdoor for every company that I apply to.
Mm,
Sometimes the data's not there for everyone, but you know, the ones that do have enough data, then I can sort of take that, as you say, with a pinch of salt, and make sure that I read it to see if there's anything useful that people are saying. Sometimes people have some really unique
mm,
information that they put in those reviews, and you'll be like, okay, I didn't know that. And I couldn't have found that anywhere else, right?
yeah,
There's probably other sites as well, like Glassdoor, right? But I'm not sure what other sites have that level of
like cover all bases. They've
cover.
got pay, interviews, and the reviews.
Yeah, and also like care about grads and senior positions and
Yeah.
very senior positions, because there's others like Rate My Placement or
Oh,
stuff like
yeah,
that, but
yeah.
they're
Very
for
targeted.
intern
Yeah,
levels and things like
that's
that.
very true.
you know. So if you are a graduate or intern, maybe something like Rate My Placement will be useful for you. Um, and if you're looking for an experienced role, something more like Glassdoor.
Yeah, I'd agree. Our third tip would be, when applying for job, use all different avenues that are available to you. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, apply directly, use your network, and use recruiters as well.
Yeah,
Use everything, like all the resources out there to apply for a job. And I feel like, just by me saying that, I feel like that sounds really obvious. But, I know people who apply for jobs and they only use recruiters, or they'll only kind of use their network. I think it's good just to tackle like all your bases, because what I find of applying for jobs sometimes is that it's a bit of a numbers game, especially when there's, especially in January, when there's so many jobs that flood onto the market. If anyone's looked on LinkedIn recently, there are a ton of jobs available, because they know that January people move, and so the market's a bit more saturated. So lots of people are applying for different stuff. So it does become a bit more of a numbers game. So if it is a numbers game, use all the possible routes out there to help you find a job.
yeah, but also there are some companies that do not hire recruiters, right? So if you go for a recruiter, you're never going to find loads of companies, right?
Yeah,
And then so you need to be searching um, directly for these companies, but I mean, it's not like you're going to have a list of companies to search for. So LinkedIn is a kind of place, or other job boards are places where you can find the jobs directly into these companies, and they put their link up there, so you can go. It just gives you a hyperlink straight to their website.
yeah. Or even
Um,
sometimes on the LinkedIn ones, it's like you can apply via LinkedIn.
yeah,
So then you just have to attach your CV, and then it will send the information to the company.
sometimes with that thing, I like to apply via LinkedIn and directly if there's a direct option, because I have applied via LinkedIn before and they will not look at it,
Yeah, I
and I
heard
don't know
nothing.
why they even activated it.
Do you know why? Do you know what it
Why
is?
is that?
Because I think, because it's so easy to do it. Because when you have a application, like when you have a job and all you have to do to apply is upload your CV, click
Yeah,
through it with LinkedIn, it means that you just must get, those companies must get hundreds and hundreds of people, and they can't filter through all. And I think they either don't filter through all of them because they have a cut-off date, but they don't update the LinkedIn, or they see your CV and then don't respond back to what you say. So just don't give you a response.
yeah, because I applied direct via LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn sent me a notification saying they've read my CV, and I thought, okay, good. I'm expecting, maybe in the next day or two, a response. Nothing
Nothing.
till
That's the
now,
thing. When
and maybe they saw my CV and thought, nah. But it's funny because then I applied directly and I got a response.
Hmm,
So Yeah, I think because you're right, it's so easy to just send off your CV. Usually on their direct website, you have to do there's a few more hoops to jump through, but it gives them a bit more filtering so they get less results back
Mm,
and then they can like respond to fewer people.
yeah.
So, yeah, if you can, apply directly. Yeah.
What I would say about recruiters, though, is that you have to remember that recruiters are essentially they're salespeople.
Yeah.
They're going to be selling you the role. They're going to be highly encouraging you to go for that role, and they're going to be applying a bit of pressure or a bit of not pressure,
Yeah.
urgency to get your
Even when
CV
there's
to
none.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when there's none, to get your CV to them quickly. Once you have their CV, to get through to the round, to get through to the next rounds, to give an answer super quickly, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So just when you're dealing with a recruiter, just have that at the back of their mind that they do not have your
Best
or they don't
interest. No,
always
no.
have your best interest in mind, and that ultimately you getting a job results to them getting extra commission. So obviously that they're going to want to push you along the
Yep.
process quicker, and obviously they're gonna put some urgency there, whether there's urgency from the company or not. They're going to create a sense of urgency so you can kind of go through the process quite quickly
And they have
because they want their
targets.
commission and they've got targets.
Yeah.
So my experience with recruiters have been, ups and downs, pros and cons. I've had some that have been really, really great,
I've had a lot more downs than ups,
and then
put it
some
that way.
that's been not very good at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, have a think about that.
Yeah. And use your network as well. In most companies, or that I know, there are bonuses or incentives for employees to refer someone that they know. Yeah. And people either through your LinkedIn or personally or whatever, who work for these companies that you may be applying for. And if you use your network and apply through them and go through their referral scheme, there are benefits to them because there's that incentive that the company gives them, but there are also benefits to you, right? And sometimes those benefits to you are not apparent. They're not so clear, right? But I think one of the biggest benefits is that you now have somebody inside the company who can help you, right? So if you have any problems with your application, if you have a lack of response, or you sent your CV and you got no response, there's someone inside who can literally talk to that person
Yeah,
directly, the recruiter, and say, look, I referred this guy. Um, he's got no response. What stage are we at?
yeah,
And they can push your application in, and they want to because they also want that incentive,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
I think there are statistics. I don't know what the statistic is, but there are statistics that um, people who are referred are more likely to receive the job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I think if you're asking for someone to refer you as well, you've got inside knowledge on what that company's really like,
Hmm.
and that person can give you kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly as well. I've referred people before and have given like a really honest um, depiction of the company that I'm at the time, and I've been able to tell them what the pros are, what the cons are. Tip number 4, practice what you're going to say. I do this all the time.
Hmm.
So a lot of the time, especially when you're more experienced, the interviews are there's a lot of competency-based interviews. So they want to test how you would react in a certain situation or how you have reacted previously in that situation. So tell me a time when you've had to deal with challenging stakeholders, or tell me a time when you've had to manage a team of people in uncertain times, kind of things like that. I find it really helpful if I write down what I'm going to say in bullet format, or if I write it kind of word by word and then practice and practice and practice again and again and again what I'm going to say. So when I go into the interview, it's very, I guess, basically flawless,
Hmm.
and I'm not and ahhing and stuttering. I just know exactly what I'm going to say. I've got an example to go back to. I also find that very helpful when I'm running through my CV, because sometimes interview questions like, tell me about yourself, or walk me through your experience. And you have to walk the person through your CV line by line, bit by bit. And again, I find that really helpful if I practice what I'm going to say. So it's almost kind of memorized. It just means that for me personally, I come across as a bit more like slick, professional, unfazed, and quite confident in what I'm going to say. And that approach has always worked really well for me.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. The questions like "Tell me about yourself" are
So
questions where a
vague.
lot of people like they don't know what to say. It's like, uh, I'm 29. Uh, so that's the type of questions where I like to have some bullet points.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm gonna start babbling. I don't know what to say.
And that's the thing, right? Like in the interview, that's one thing that I feel like you do not want to do. Like you don't want to babble and say something that's not relevant or meaningful. You want to be concise and clear. Like if the question is, tell me about yourself, I'm not going to mention my GCSE A levels or university results and degree.
Yeah.
It's not relevant, it's not important. I'm not going to talk about like anything that involves non-work related, well, anything that involves kind of what has happened prior to me starting my career. I'm going to talk about my main highlights, and then I'll probably talk a little bit about at the end, what I like to do in my spare time to make me seem more human. But what I don't want to do is just waffle, 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 babble, babble, babble,
hmm
because I just don't feel like that shows that you can be succinct or
The
and it's
clear,
not engaging.
yeah.
Like, don't underestimate how much people like people who are engaging and interesting. And if you can't hold someone's interest in an interview, then then they can just switch off.
The clear, concise communication is something that is highly important.
Hmm.
People, once you can communicate clearly, it breeds confidence. People now have more confidence in you. And if you're interviewing for a position, then they want to have confidence that you can handle yourself in that position, that you
Mm,
can talk to your colleagues or talk to customers in a way that is very professional
mm,
and gets the point across and can handle pressure situations if you're in a job that needs to handle pressure situations. So yeah, it's very important. Practice what you're going to say. Practice in front of a mirror, um, or just you know practice. If you some people like to have bullet points, like you say. Some people like to write a full script. Just do whatever works for you.
yeah, do whatever works for you. Tip number 5, be honest if you're having multiple interviews. Some companies will actually speed up the process
Mm.
if you tell them, look, I'm being interviewed by this company, this company, this company.
It's actually an important tip because some people don't do this and maybe they don't see the benefits of it.
Mm,
I think maybe some people feel like that if you're going to interview for a company, sometimes that company wants you to say, "This is the only place I've ever wanted to work for in my life. It's my dream to work here." You know, some companies want you to say that stuff, but it's not reality. So, yes, I would like to work here, but you know what? I am interviewing at some other places. Who knows? You might not offer me a job. So, yeah, I've got a couple of things in the pipeline.
mm,
I've got a couple of things going. If you want to offer me a position or consider that I might be suitable for a position, but we need to go through a few more rounds, that maybe you should schedule those rounds a little
yeah.
bit sooner, you know?
And do you know what it is? You come across being more desirable.
Mm,
And people always like it when other people want you.
yeah, oh,
Like,
definitely.
do you not hear stories where people say, "Oh, I like it when other women think my man's hot and sexy." Like, like some women out there like it that their man is considered to be desirable
Mm.
by other women. It means that they've got a prime asset.
I mean, that could be true,
So
yes.
it's the same thing for companies, isn't it? It's like, wow, so you're here applying for, I don't know, Amazon, but Google and Sky and Netflix and TikTok and BT all want you.
Yeah.
Wow, what are you doing? Good, like, okay.
I mean, this is a good point because I did interview for one company who I told, yeah, I've got other interviews going, right? I didn't actually necessarily have other interviews going at that time, but I said that, and they pushed me through the process, and I got the next two interviews in the
Mm.
same week,
Oh.
and so yeah, that went quite quickly. However, another company, I applied. 2 weeks later, I got my first interview.
Mm.
During that interview, it went well, and I said, okay, when's the next one? I've got, a couple of others in the pipeline, oh, are you interviewing
Mm.
elsewhere? I said, yes. He said, okay, so the second interview will be in a month's time.
Okay, so I guess you don't want me then.
I guess not. And
Bye.
I think that's a really strong sign. Not only am I not that important to you right now, but you must not need anybody for this position right
Mm.
now. It's like it's not very important to you. Some companies you have to understand are trying to fill spots. They have budget for this number of people, or they have these number of positions. They don't actually have work for those people.
Yeah.
They are just trying to fill positions, and once they've filled them, we will think about what you can do. What we'll see what kind of jobs come up and what
Yeah.
we can get you doing, and eventually, sometimes you end up doing things that are completely, you know, not very useful to you, right? Other companies, they've got a position, they've got clear
It
work
rolled.
that they want you to
Yeah.
do. They know exactly, you know, where they're going to put you as soon as you join. And if they need someone in that position soon, then they will put you through the process a little bit quicker, right? To see if you come through the other end. You may not, but they want to give themselves the chance to get the right candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's, as people say, right? It's not just you being interviewed by them, it's also, you interviewing them.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
two-way
It's
two-way
a
thing.
it's a
That's why
two-way
that
thing.
that's why I say it's like dating.
Yeah, because you're right there. It's exactly like
I
dating.
know, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that actually leads on to the next tip, which is go where you are appreciated and where your skills are appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And I broke that down into like where you are appreciated and your skills appreciated, because we know as black people we're not appreciated everywhere, right? Not everywhere. And so we need to try and identify places where they really don't appreciate us here. And I personally have joined companies, right, where um, I know they didn't appreciate having a black person there, right? Straight up. I know that.
Getting
So
real with the listeners.
I'm getting real. And so there were situations after I joined, and I don't know how long was I there. I was there 6 months,
Mm.
and yeah, there were situations after I joined, and there were the red flags during the interview process and stuff like that, and there were also red flags on the first day.
Mm.
But I stuck it out. I thought, maybe they're just not that warm people, but they're still good people, and yeah, this it didn't work
That
out,
was
and
not the
because
case.
I wasn't appreciated for who I am, right? Regardless of what my skills were,
Mm.
right? And then there are other places now where I um I went there and my skills weren't appreciated, right? Because sometimes when you are hired as a senior hire, you are expecting senior treatment,
Mm.
or you're expecting at the very least people to ask you some questions,
Mm.
you know um maybe people to consider your opinion as the senior person. How should we be going about doing certain things here, because you've got all this experience that
Yeah.
you've joined a company with. And I know there are a lot of people in similar type of positions where you your seniority is not respected, and they don't respect that experience and skills that you have brought,
Yeah.
right? And so they don't ask you those questions. They're not interested in what you think should happen. All that stuff is driven by someone else, or someone else in the business, and therefore you're not appreciated there.
Yeah.
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 And that's why you want to go somewhere where you are appreciated for who you are, and where your skills and
Mm.
experience are appreciated.
Though I agree with that, but I think it can be hard to find that out in the interview process.
I'll tell you one thing. There are some questions maybe you can ask to find that out, right?
Mm,
So during the interview process, hopefully you're being interviewed by your manager or like the team that you're going to work with.
mm,
Not always the case, but hopefully you will be. And if you are, then you can ask them directly, what is it here that you expect me to bring? What
mm.
what are my skills that
What am
you
I?
need from me?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
say if they
What?
say, we need you to do some coding, right? But I'm a senior member of the team,
Yeah.
right?
What specifically do you want from me
Yeah.
to bring to this team? Like like what is it? What in my
What is your
CV? What
team
what my
deficient in?
skill set? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is my team deficient in? What is this team deficient in? What is it that you see on my CV that you can really leverage and use?
Right.
Specific things, because as you said, that will show how they are valuing your skills.
Exactly. Right. And I had that exact situation. I have gone to jobs and I said, okay, what do you need from me? And they say, we need an engineer to come in and do some coding, right? And it's like, oh, is that it? Because I have ran projects before. I have done this before,
But do you
right?
know what?
And it's like, okay, well, it's my mistake if I'm going to take a job where they say they don't need anyone who to help with the direction of things, but to just do the manual labor in some sort of way, right?
But do you know what? That comes back down to the first tip of what do you want from a company? What do you want from
Yeah,
your role? What do you want from a job?
yeah,
You may feel like, yes, you're senior, yes, you've got this experience,
uh-huh,
but I don't want to do that stuff. Like, I'm happy to, not bring that. Let's say you're a developer. Yes, I'm happy to code, but I don't want to manage the team. I don't want to be involved in the strategic direction of a project.
yeah.
I'm happy just to kind of do the coding and I'm good for whatever reason that may be. So it all kind of comes into what you
What
want
you want,
from the company, what you want from the role, and then that then filters down into, okay, so how do I make sure that the company appreciates me and then I'm appreciated for my skill set as well.
yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly, completely, right? And so if I take that job, it's
Mm,
completely my mistake, right? I've gone and taken the wrong job, yeah, because that's not what I want.
mm,
I want
mm,
to be involved in a strategic direction. I want to, have my voice heard. I don't want to sit in the corner and be told what to code next, right?
mm. You want to be more of, if you want to be more in that leadership position.
Yeah, yeah, some responsibility.
Mm,
However, I have been in other interview positions where the manager has told me, look, you have this experience, you've got these skills, like for example, my consulting skills. That's
we want
something
that.
that we want.
Mm,
Yeah, that's something that we may lack in certain areas in our team. There is some understanding there that other team members don't have, and we want to bring that and we want to help that to shape the direction of the team,
mm.
to shape people's thinking, to, you
But
know,
I think the fact that that person could say that and like see that on your CV, like, well, first of all, the fact that they could recognize that there's a deficit in their own team,
yeah,
see that in your CV, and then communicate that back, like that's what I want.
yeah,
To me, that is a positive. Like if I'm thinking about companies, if I've got multiple companies that I'm interviewing at on the go, for me, that's going to be one that's going to stand out
yeah,
because you could identify what's on my CV and specifically call on things that I've done and said, yes, I like that. Because I've done lots of interviews at different consultancies, and I find what they struggle to do is to kind of say, you've done this before, I want this now.
yeah.
Like it's kind of like, oh yeah, we like the fact that you've kind of done, yeah, managing teams and like, yeah, you've been on like implementation projects. Like it's all very generic,
It's a bit high
but
level,
they
isn't it?
can
Yeah,
never. But so like the fact that that person gave specifics about what you wanted, and they went into quite a lot of detail, and even now kind of say yes, they like that your consulting experience. To me, is a positive and a plus.
yeah.
Um, and I think, yeah, I think like that's only a good thing.
And the fact that that was recognized and recognized a skill I have and a deficit, that was a green flag to me because
Yeah.
they can see where I fit in
Yes.
directly in the
Yes.
team, right? So that's how I knew that, right, this is a good one for me to go for.
Yeah, I agree. So let me give you an experience of where I have felt unappreciated for the skills that I have. And this was a few years ago when I was interviewing at a consultancy company. And I had done, I think there was about like 4 rounds of interviews or something like that. But yeah, probably about 4 rounds of interviews. I had gone to the last round where I had done an interview with the CEO. Past that round, I was told, yep, good to go. They'd like to give you an offer. There's just one thing that you need to do,
Hmm.
a numerical and verbal reasoning test. And the moment, if I'm being really honest, the moment I heard that, I thought, WTF?
Yeah.
Why am I doing? I'm not a grad. I'm not. It's not a weeding out process. You haven't got 500 people applying, and you can only got one job. Why on earth am I doing a verbal and numerical reasoning test? A, I'm not good at it. B, it has nothing to do with my skill set.
Yeah.
C, it's absolute stupidness.
Never do you have to do even maybe add two numbers together. You
No,
know, I mean,
exactly.
rarely,
Rare.
so rarely.
And I was not happy at all. But I thought to myself, you know what, I'll do the test. And I spoke to a recruiter and I was like, is this a deciding factor of me getting the job? I've already gone through all the interviews. The CEO was happy with me. Like, is this a deal breaker essentially? I was told no, it was not. So I was like, okay, I'll just fill it in. And if I'm being really honest, I didn't think at times I got a bit bored through the test.
Hmm.
And I just clicked on random numbers. I didn't give it my all. I didn't practice beforehand. I just gave it one shot and was like, well, whatever. I got a message back from the um company, like a phone call from company saying that my scores were very low, like unusually low, and they would like me to do the test again just to kind of see whether, the score could increase or whatever.
Hmm.
And I instead of being like, yeah, let's do it again, just send me the test, I'm like being super enthusiastic, I just said to the woman, but do I have to do this? And just a little bit confused as to why this test is important for me to do because it hasn't got any bearing or reference to the consulting that I bring.
Yeah.
Long story short, um, it didn't go any further. I decided not to redo the test because I thought it was nonsense and stupid, and they decided to not continue with the interview process for me.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that was a clear example of how my skill set was not
Not. Yeah.
recognized
Exactly.
because they would rather say no to me because some stupid numerical and verbal reasoning tests that means squat diddly all than look at the experience that I've had in my consulting career and trump that above some stupid SHL test that you do.
Even talk to some of your references. They weren't interested in doing
Weren't
that.
interested in any
They
of
they
that.
didn't want to hear about all the projects that you have done, the success.
But the thing is,
Nope.
Stefan, I had already gone through like 4 rounds
Exactly.
and spoken so what? That means nothing? Okay.
Right.
And after that, I realized if any company wants to give me that foolishness,
Yeah.
again, not interested. That I'm out. I don't need to do it. I don't need to do it. I don't need to prove myself on some stupid test that mean shite all.
Yeah.
You know, recognize where your value is, recognize where you're appreciated, and don't feel the need to bend over backwards, jumping over hoops to do some foolish test for some company when it doesn't mean nothing. Because I tell you what, you can go off and work somewhere else and not have to jump through as many ridiculous hoops.
I was done doing all those tests that have no bearing on my
Yeah,
career
I'm
when I
done.
finished my degree.
Done. Done with all of that.
Yeah.
Done. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's a case study, makes sense. I get it.
Hmm.
Case study that's linked to your, you
To the type
consulting.
of work that you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Valid. No problems. But if you're telling me here to look at this graph and work out X, Y, and Z, and how can you get a
The
percent?
hypotenuse
Yeah, and
and
all
all that
this
crap.
nonsense, or whatever the verbal reasoning tests are is, oh, look at all these numbers, so look at all these texts and see what the commonality is, or do a
These
comprehension
patterns.
exercise, or yeah, look at the patterns.
Mm.
What's this? What are we doing here?
Isn't it?
What are we doing? So yeah, I felt like my skill set wasn't appreciated because I was jumping over those hoops, and even still, despite going through the entire interview process,
Mm.
they that those tests were a deal breaker, and because they were upset that I didn't show enthusiasm to want to repeat the test again. They didn't want to progress, and I was also in the same position that I didn't want to progress.
Yeah.
It went nowhere.
Right.
Um, so yeah, know your value.
Exactly.
Know where you're going to be appreciated. Make sure your skill set's
Mm,
appreciated.
yeah. I'm going to give you one more example of that one because I think where you're appreciated as black people is really important. And I
Mm,
had another experience different from the one I mentioned earlier, where I went for an interview for a company and I got there early, you know, signed in. They contacted the person to come speak to me, and I was sat at reception. I sat at reception for maybe 15 minutes,
mm,
and nobody came. During that time, I saw certain people come downstairs, look around, and go back upstairs. And um, bearing in mind, reception was like very tiny, like the size of, a standard bedroom, maybe, and I was the only person sitting there,
okay.
right? Um, I said to the receptionist, um, you know, are they running late? Where are they? And she said, oh, she'll contact them. They came down, and I saw someone come down again, same person as before, look around and start to go upstairs. And at that point, I say, oh, hi, are you looking for me? And she turns around and says, oh, are you Stefan? I'm like, yes, I am. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was you. Okay. Um, you're not what you sound, you don't look like how you sounded on the phone. Because a week earlier I had done a phone interview that had gone very well. And I'm like, okay, right. Go upstairs. During we're going upstairs, she asked me if I want water and that sort of thing. And as I enter the interview room, I sit down, and she asks me, am I from here? Am I from here? I didn't expect it to sort of be you that would show up. I thought it would probably be somebody who looks a bit differently. You've got a very nice accent, she said. Obviously, I used my interview voice in the interview. And so at that point in time, regardless of how the interview went on from there, because it was terrible, um, I knew I was not appreciated in this building.
But
Full
do you
stop.
know what it is? I don't even think appreciation is the right word for what happened.
Mm,
I think it's more the case of so many different things. That woman who went down, I don't know whether she was from HR or from the team you'd be working in.
she was actually the lead of the team.
Okay, even worse. So she was, well, it doesn't matter. It's not even worse. It's all as bad. That leader of the team went down and she saw you and thought, there is no way
Mm,
that this black man could be here for this job.
yeah,
So she had already unconsciously put her own bias, prejudices, thoughts, stereotypes onto
racism.
you.
Yeah.
And then, so for me, listening back, and I've heard that story many times, but listening back to that story, if that, if you had worked for that company and worked for that woman, she would never have, I don't think, believe that you were capable of the job that you were doing because she's already put you in a box.
Yeah.
And you would have had to prove yourself again and again and again and again and again to her because her mind wouldn't even have been like she can't even comprehend that you being a black male can do this job. And then it's a case of, oh, you speak really well, are you from here? All those microaggressions would have come up into the workplace, and you'd have been very conscious and very aware of your blackness, even more so than you are normally
Yeah.
being in predominantly white spaces. It's not even the fact of appreciation, it was a fact of they've got a lot of learning that they need to do in their D&I space, basically.
It was a
And do
small
I want to
company.
be the guinea pig and tester? Nah,
Mm.
don't think so.
It was a small company. I don't really believe they had a DNI or anything like that. Even the way during the interview, uh, I was sort of demonstrated my experience and saying, if you want to achieve your goals, then this is the type of direction you need to go in. And they were like, yeah, we don't want to do any of that. We just want to sort of fly the seat of by the seat of our pants and see how it goes from there. So I just knew that, it wasn't going to be a good fit for me, and I was just not interested in joining a team that was going to treat me differently to everybody else.
And that's another thing as well. If you are going through the interview process and you do see red flags, do you know what I mean? Walk away. It's you're dating your future husband here. You know, feel free to walk away if you
Yeah.
don't think that company is a right fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on to the next tip. Be open-minded.
Yes, be open-minded. I think this also goes down to tip 2, which is to read Glassdoor, because sometimes you can read reviews and you can hear things about companies from other people or people who who work there, and you can get like a bad impression. And so if you're going to go for an interview, you may as well be open-minded. You may as well go thinking that there's the possibility that this could tick all your boxes, and search to see whether it does tick all your boxes and whether it is suitable for you. And you may be correct in your thinking that it doesn't fit your boxes, but yeah, it could still be suitable for you. So just be open-minded, if you're going to go for an interview at all.
Let me tell you a story where I was open-minded in an interview process. So I was interviewing for a company that had a consulting arm to it, and it had about 5 different interview stages, so very, 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 very long. And in one of the interview stages, I had to have dinner with 3 men from the company
That's an interview stage.
as an interview stage.
I have never.
We had Italian after work.
Would they have done that for a man?
Probably. I didn't put it down to my
Yeah,
sex, but I
why
just thought
dinner?
it was why dinner. And I remember just being like, this is
In
gonna
the
be
evening?
really yeah, in the evening, wasn't even lunch. And I remember, and it was 3 men.
Is
Like
that
they were so unfair. They couldn't even give me like a woman.
is that
Like
professional?
they were very professional. They didn't do anything. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I can say, about to say it wasn't awkward. No, no, no. It was 100% awkward because it's an interview, right? So they're asking you questions. It wasn't like a consultant meet where you're like, oh no, we'll talk to you about what the company's like and things like that. No, no, no. It was a full-blown like interview, um, just over dinner. So then obviously you can't escape because you're gonna have like, I think we had like at least 2, like they all got starters. So the moment they get started, you're here for a while. And so you can't escape. And then also another reason why it's awkward, you can't just eat anything. You can't just have like ribs. Do you know what I mean? Chicken wings. So then in the back of your mind, like, oh my gosh, I have to make sure my table manners are on point.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was on a date with 3 men,
Wow.
but it wasn't a date, it was for a job. Now, I had to be very open-minded because I thought it was very strange, very bizarre. The only good thing was that the meal was free, and that is probably it. But obviously, I had to do it after work, so that it cut into my own time.
I wonder if they
In
still do that.
hindsight, I should have realized this was a red flag, and
Yeah.
I should have been like, what interview process would make me go to dinner with 3 guys? But again, just an example of how sometimes you may need to be open-minded when venturing onto
I mean,
interview
you never
processes.
know. Maybe the interview process is absolutely terrible, borderline unprofessional, but you could love working there.
You could.
So just be open-minded. You never know.
Tip number 8, consider the package, the benefit package, the development opportunities, and obviously the good old salary. Take it all into consideration. If your base salary is a certain amount and it may not be what you want, the fact that you can get a guaranteed bonus every year or a guaranteed pay rise every year could potentially trump a really high salary, but where you don't get a bonus, where you don't get that guaranteed pay rise.
Yeah.
So really just take everything into consideration, especially the development opportunities.
It's called a package for that reason.
Yes, you're right. It's called a package for that reason.
But yeah, definitely. Like shares, joining bonuses,
Yeah.
yearly bonuses, quarterly bonuses are things that some companies provide, but also healthcare opportunities. Sometimes they will sign you up to healthcare for you and your family. Um, Dentistry, what else?
Gyms and stuff.
Gyms. There's all these other opportunities of
Packages to look out for, isn't it? And to think about. Because
benefits.
benefits, yeah.
Yeah.
Because even in the company that I'm in right now, one of the benefits is cinema tickets. And we've, how many times have I, given you the perk of a free cinema ticket every now and again? And right now during lockdown, we get free, like we can watch certain movies online
Online, yeah.
for free as well.
Yeah, rent them.
Yeah, rent them for like a couple of days and you get them for free.
It's
And
not a
that's
big
it's not a
benefit.
big
Yeah,
benefit,
it's not
let's
it's not
not
a reason to choose a
it's not a
company,
reason to stay.
but
Yeah.
alongside everything else, it's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And when you are considering that whole package and all the different benefits that come with it, really, I would encourage everyone out here to negotiate their salary.
Yes, definitely. Negotiate your salary, negotiate the whole package, right? But there's certain things that are standard most of the time, like how much they add into your pension is usually the same for everyone.
Your holiday allowance will be the
Yeah,
same.
in general. Yeah, sometimes you can negotiate that. Sometimes some companies give,
Yeah,
some people some more and stuff like that, or there's different different holiday
depend
options for different levels,
levels, yeah.
stuff like that. But yes, the salary, joining bonuses, that type of thing you can negotiate and try and push up.
Mm,
Yeah, and so if you've gone through the interview process, and they have identified you in a position that they want to see you in, they've identified skills that are important to them, you know, you want to work there as well, and they want you to work there, then maybe you have a little bit of leverage to say, so this is what I'm asking for.
yeah, I agree. And we'll do an episode on how to negotiate your salary as well, because I've been able to successfully negotiate my salary previously when I moved companies. So we've got experience in that, and I know for a lot of people it can feel quite daunting, quite embarrassing, and ultimately an uncomfortable conversation to have.
Mm.
But I would say, as Stefan mentioned, you're in a if they want you and you want them, you're in a good pos position to kind of negotiate and discuss it and have that open conversation. And you want to make sure that you kind of walk in with a salary that you're happy with. But I would, highly recommend that people negotiate their salary, or at least try to broach that conversation. And if it's a no, then it's a no, but at least you can say that you've done it.
Yes, definitely. And the final tip is try not to jump at the first offer you have because you want to leave your job. Consider, does it tick all the boxes that we mentioned
Mm,
previously? And also think to yourself, if you do go for a job and you get the offer, it is okay to turn down a job offer. You know,
mm-hmm,
it's difficult to do for some people, especially if it's the only offer you've had so far, and especially if you've been searching for a long time.
mm,
You know, I mean, I can understand how difficult that is to turn down a
yeah,
decision for a company that you don't think is right for you. Sometimes you can accept an offer, keep looking after you've accepted an offer. So that is also an option. But if you just do not see yourself working there at all, it is okay to also turn it down.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And as you said, it can be hard to do, but your career is such a long time, so you have to try to think kind of long term in this as well.
Yeah. So I think that sort of covers what we wanted to talk about today,
Yeah.
and uh, gives everybody some ideas to work with, some tips that hopefully help you with your job search this January. Good luck with everybody's job search, especially if you're trying to move on from somewhere that is a bit toxic for you.
Mm. Okay, we'll leave it there and we will catch up with you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
If you have any questions or dilemmas, email us on ordinaryblackprofessionals@gmail.com, or we can be found on Instagram and Twitter at ordinaryblackprofessionals. Also, don't forget to follow us, subscribe, and leave a rating and comment.